Have you ever looked at a clock just as the second hand starts to move? For a brief, peculiar moment, that first tick seems to take longer than all the others that follow. It feels stretched out, almost as if time itself held its breath before continuing its relentless march. This strange little hiccup in our perception is a real phenomenon, known as chronostasis. It happens because our brain, in its cleverness, is constantly trying to create a smooth, continuous story of our world. When our eyes dart to a new object, like the clock, the brain retroactively fills in the gap, making that first instant feel unnaturally long. This is just one of the many ways our minds play tricks on us when it comes to time. This small, everyday illusion opens a door to a much bigger question, one that almost everyone asks as they get older. Why does time seem to speed up? Why did the summer holidays of our childhood feel like an endless, sun-drenched epic, while the years now seem to flick by like pages in a quickly read book? The answer isn't in the clocks on our walls or the calendars we follow. The answer, it turns out, is locked deep inside our own minds, in the very way we experience and remember our lives. The clock on the wall ticks at a constant pace, but our internal clock, the one that governs our sense of duration, is far more flexible and mysterious. Think back to a family holiday from when you were a child. Can you remember the feeling of the journey, the seemingly endless car ride, the excitement building with every passing mile? The first sight of the sea, the unfamiliar smell of a new place, the taste of a different kind of ice cream. Those weeks often felt vast, packed with so much detail and discovery that they stretched out in our memory. Now, contrast that with a recent 2-week holiday as an adult. It was lovely, relaxing, but when it was over, didn't it feel like it went by in a flash? This is what psychologists call the holiday paradox. The paradox works like this. When we're on a holiday full of new experiences, the days feel long as we live them. But when we look back, the time seems to have passed quickly. Conversely, routine feels quick in the moment, but long in retrospect. The key is how much new information the brain processes. A child's world is almost entirely new. Every day brings a flood of firsts. A first pet. A first bike ride. The first day of school. That stream of novelty forces the young brain to work hard, creating rich, detailed memories. An 8-year-old's year is a huge proportion of their life, 1/8. For a 50-year-old, 1 year is 1/50th. Each new year is a smaller fraction, so it feels shorter. Imagine your brain is a vast filing cabinet, and each memory is a file. When you are young, the cabinet is mostly empty. Every new experience, learning to tie your shoes, tasting a lemon for the first time, seeing snowfall, gets its own thick, detailed file. The brain takes its time to label it, cross-reference it, and store it carefully. Because there are so many new, distinct files, that period feels long. Your memory of that year is built from hundreds of these rich, individual files. As we get older, the filing cabinet starts to get crowded. We encounter fewer truly new experiences. Instead of new files, the brain takes a shortcut. It bundles routine experiences into a single, compressed file. Example label: Work commutes, 2025. Example label: Grocery shopping, autumn. Individual details get lost and smudged into a general impression. This is memory compression. It's incredibly efficient for the brain. It saves energy and storage by not recording every mundane detail. A routine year might be a handful of compressed bundles. A childhood year is hundreds of vivid memories, like a 10-page book versus a 300-page book. Our sense of time is largely the story told by how many and how rich our memories are. Our brains are fundamentally wired to pay special attention to novelty. From an evolutionary perspective, this makes perfect sense. A new sight or sound in our environment could signal an opportunity like a food source or a threat like a predator. Paying close attention to the unfamiliar was crucial for survival. This ancient mechanism is still active in our modern minds. When we encounter something for the very first time, our brain goes into high alert mode. It engages more fully, absorbing a greater amount of detail to make sense of the new information. Think about your first kiss, your first day at a new job, your first time visiting a foreign country. These memories often remain sharp and vivid for years, if not a lifetime. The richness of the sensory detail, the sights, the sounds, the emotions, is captured with incredible fidelity. Because the brain is working so hard to encode this dense packet of new information, the event itself feels like it lasts longer. Time seems to stretch to accommodate the flood of data being processed. As we age, the number of genuine firsts naturally declines. Life becomes less about discovery and more about repetition. This reduction in novelty is a primary driver of the feeling that time is speeding up. The power of firsts reminds us that our perception of time is not fixed. It is directly linked to the richness of the information we are giving our brains to process. This is the opposite of the memory compression that happens during periods of routine. Novelty forces the brain to decompress, to expand its focus, to record events in high definition. Beyond the psychology of memory and novelty, there is also a biological component to our perception of time. Neuroscientists believe that our brain has an internal pacemaker, a sort of neural clock. One of the key chemicals involved in regulating this internal clock is dopamine, a neurotransmitter associated with pleasure, motivation, reward. It plays a crucial role not just in how we feel, but in how we experience the flow of time itself. Studies have shown that our internal clock appears to run at different speeds depending on dopamine levels. Generally speaking, higher levels of dopamine seem to speed up our internal clock. When the clock is running faster, it ticks more times within a given interval. This makes the external world and the passage of objective time seem to move more slowly. Conversely, as we age, levels of dopamine and dopamine receptors naturally decline. With less dopamine to fuel it, our internal clock is thought to slow down. When our internal clock ticks more slowly, the outside world seems to be passing by much more quickly in comparison. This dopamine clock hypothesis provides a compelling biological underpinning for the psychological theories. The novelty and excitement of youth are associated with higher dopamine release, which would speed up the internal clock and make time feel slower. The routine and predictability of adulthood are associated with lower baseline dopamine levels, which would slow the internal clock and make time feel faster. It suggests that the rush we feel isn't just in our heads in a metaphorical sense. It might actually be linked to the changing chemical rhythms within our own brains. The strange elasticity of time is not just a laboratory curiosity. It shows up in the most dramatic human experiences. Consider accounts of people who survived life-threatening situations, car accidents, falls from a great height. A common theme: time felt dramatically slowed. Split-second events recalled as slow motion with incredible, vivid detail. Not time travel. The brain shifts processing speed. In extreme danger, the amygdala, the brain's fear center, goes into overdrive. It commands the brain to crank up its recording capacity. Memories are laid down at a much higher frame rate, capturing far more information per second than normal. Neuroscientist David Eagleman at Baylor tested this. He and his team built a perceptual chronometer, a wrist device that flashed numbers too fast to read. Volunteers did a 150-foot freefall into a net while trying to read the wrist display. The result? No one could. The experiment showed no superpowers in crisis. Time doesn't objectively slow. It's a trick of memory. The brain, flooded with fear, records in rich detail, making the memory far denser than, say, sitting in a chair. Our sense of duration is a reconstruction built from those memories. An entire life flashes before someone's eyes. The richness of the present experience is all that matters. If the feeling of accelerating time is linked to routine and a lack of new memories, then the solution becomes wonderfully clear. To slow down our perception of time, we need to break our routines and actively seek out novelty. Give your brain new, interesting material to work with. Inject novelty in small, manageable, meaningful ways. Change everyday habits. Take a different route to work or the grocery store. Stop running on autopilot. Engage with a new environment and create fresh spatial memories. Listen to a genre of music you've never considered. Try cooking a recipe from a cuisine you've never eaten. Visit a park or museum in your town. Each small change creates a new memory marker. Learning a new skill is one of the most powerful techniques. Learn a language. Learn a musical instrument. Try painting. Try coding. The struggle and progress populate your timeline with distinct milestones. Ultimately, pay more attention. Practice mindfulness as a way of life. When drinking your morning coffee, truly taste it. Fill days with attention and novelty. Add more life to the hours so they feel richer, fuller, and longer in memory. That was the month I finally learned to play that difficult chord. That was the summer I started to understand conversational Spanish. Those markers give the past texture and length routine cannot provide. By directing your attention, you're telling your brain, this moment is important. While hacking our perception to slow down time is a useful strategy, it's also important to cultivate a healthy relationship with the time we have. Constantly worrying about how fast time is passing can, ironically, make us miss the very moments we are trying to savor. The anxiety itself becomes a distraction, pulling us out of the present and into a state of worry about the past and future. Part of the journey is to find a sense of acceptance and peace with the natural flow of life, even as its perceived pace changes. Instead of lamenting that a year has flown by, we can look back and be grateful for the experiences it contained, even the routine ones. The stability of a job, the comfort of a familiar home, the presence of long-term friends, they are also the cornerstones of a happy and secure life. Shifting our focus from the speed of passage to the quality of the content can transform our emotional response to time. We can plan our future, prospectively, with an eye toward creating novel, memorable experiences. Schedule trips. Sign up for classes. Set aside time for adventure. At the same time, we can look back on our past, retrospectively, with gratitude and appreciation, understanding that the blurring of routine years is a sign of a stable and predictable life which has its own profound value. Embracing the present moment is the ultimate anchor. When we are fully engaged in what we are doing right now, the question of whether time is moving fast or slow becomes irrelevant. The richness of the present experience is all that matters. This is the state of flow, where time seems to disappear altogether. By finding more of these moments in our own lives, a hobby, meaningful work, a deep conversation, we step outside the ticking of the clock and simply live. The feeling that time is slipping through our fingers like sand is a deeply human one. It connects us to generations past who watched the seasons turn and felt the same sense of acceleration. But this feeling is not a curse. It is a clue. It is our brain's way of telling us something important about how we are living. It's a call to action, a reminder to break from the script, to seek out the new, to pay attention to the small wonders of the everyday. It urges us not to let our lives become a single, compressed file in our own memories. We cannot stop the clock on the wall, nor can we reverse the biological processes of aging. The years will continue to pass. But we are not passive passengers on this journey. Our experience of time is a creative act, a story we are constantly co-authoring with our own minds. By understanding the mechanisms behind this temporal illusion, the power of novelty, the role of memory, the chemistry of our brain, we are empowered to change the narrative. We can learn to stretch the moments that matter and to give our future selves a richer, more detailed past to look back on. The solution is not to fear the passage of time, but to fill it. Fill it with firsts. Fill it with learning. Fill it with attention. Fill it with love. Fill it with laughter. The more we fill our time with life, the more life our time will seem to hold. Each new experience, each moment of genuine presence is a gift we give to our future self. It is a vibrant, detailed memory that pushes back against the blur, proving that the year was not short, but full. Ultimately, our time is measured not in the number of years we live, but in the number of moments we truly inhabit. The past may seem to rush away from us, but the present is always here, offering an endless opportunity for a new beginning. It offers the chance to lay down a new memory, to pay attention, and to feel the magnificent, unhurried weight of a single precious moment. And that is a gift of immeasurable value.